All right. Well, hello and welcome to this installment of the AOS Speaker Spotlight for the AOS Annual Meeting. Hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. We are diving right in with another speaker for the AOS Annual Meeting. So I'd love to introduce you to Dr. Cappy Sinclair. And could you just introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us about some of your background and a little bit about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me again after this long Labor Day weekend. Hopefully, everyone had a great time. I'll apologize in advance. It's bedtime at our house, so if we hear any little feet running around, it's one of the children trying to not go to bed. So hopefully,
Yep.
they'll stay upstairs. But I'm a dentist in Virginia Beach. I've had a general dentistry practice for about 15 years that I started from scratch. And Nate knows this, but probably not too many people on this video know this. But dentistry for me is a second career. I started dental school when I was about 26. Previously, before dental school, I restored art for museums, and that was really my background. So I had no real medical training in school or dental training. It wasn't even on the radar. And I did or art restoration. And the only reason that got me into dentistry was we used a lot of dental materials. We used putty, we used plasters, composites, and a friend of the family restored antiques and was a dentist as well, and said, "Have you ever thought about dentistry?" And I never did. And so that really started the journey for me. And as I got into dentistry, I really loved the aesthetic side of things. And so some of what I'll be speaking about in Greenville is going to be a lot of the aesthetic components of dentistry and how do you set up a case and restore it appropriately. But yeah, I have a great practice here. I have a partner that I've had for the last 5 years, which was great going through COVID. If you had to go through that by yourself, imagine that was very challenging. So it was great to have someone to bounce ideas off of. But yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always interesting to kind of hear perspectives of different people from around the country because I know, everyone sort of has had a different experience when it comes to all the ups and downs of the last few years, whether it's just a different type of case that you're looking at or different paradigm when it comes to your patients, that sort of thing. Um, with regard to kind of what you're going to be speaking about, can you talk a little bit about what the background of that is and how this kind of ties into orthodontics and that
Yeah.
sort of treatment? Yeah.
Yeah, I actually want to tell Nate thanks for introducing me to this group. I hadn't heard of the group, but I think it's such a great sweet spot to have restorative doctors doing or general dentists doing orthodontics. Um, Part of doing aesthetics is very often trying to set the case up for success. Many of the patients that come in that want aesthetic enhancements really don't come in with too many bacterial issues, especially as patients are getting younger and younger. So the more conservative you can be, the better off for the patient in the long run. So what's really been challenging for me, or initially, was how do you set up a case and articulate to yourself, to a specialist, to the patient, where the case is going to end up. And over the last several years, we have a couple tools that we've started to utilize to create a predictable process that's going to help patients see a restorative option for a case that may not be solved by orthodontics alone. Um, and that's really what I think is cool with restorative dentists or you all doing the treatment in the AOS is that you're looking at a case from two different lenses. You have your lens as the restorative doctor, but then you also have the lens as an orthodontist to know where the teeth should be in terms of movement. Um, so you obviously have things that can't be corrected through orthodontics alone, tooth size discrepancy issues, Bolton discrepancy issues, gingival plane issues sometimes. So a lot of those can be improved through orthodontics, but the case can really be dialed in and finished with restorative dentistry. Um, so what I'll talk on is how I've done it in the past, everything from gingival height discrepancies, so how we do our crown lengthening and set the case up appropriately, where the incisal edge should be, how we do smile design, how we can move teeth to create a position where we can add porcelain in just an additive fashion and not necessarily do a reductive preparation, but do minimal preparation or no preparation veneers, either in composite or porcelain. There's some cool techniques out there that use matrices. So I'll be speaking on a 3M product that's been really cool. We've been working with the last several years, as well as injection techniques with composites. So a lot of things that, like I said, from a restorative doctor, you will appreciate more than, say, an orthodontist. Because in talking with orthodontists, most of the time, they aren't aware of some of the restorative options out there. And so again, if you're a hammer, everything's a nail. So they're trying to fix most of the cases through just orthodontic options most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to kind of hear you talk about that. And I think, what I hear some of when I kind of talk to doctors at our courses and things like that is the number of orthodontic cases that they're diagnosing as they kind of know what to look for increases kind of with their level of knowledge. And I think also the age range of cases that they're looking at is larger as well. So kind of what you were saying as far as that the age,
Yeah.
is you're looking at young adults and you're looking at people with healthy teeth otherwise.
That
And
you shouldn't
yeah,
take their enamel away and just strip everything down.
yeah,
That's one of the things that patients have started to seek us out for is they know we do conservative restorations. And really, I think social media has brought that awareness to a lot of patients. I mean, it amazes me the number of people that come in and will show us a video of someone with crown preps on what looked like somewhat virgin teeth. Again, I can't diagnose anything from the internet, but they did travel dentistry. They went to Turkey. They went to some other country, and it was less expensive, but at what cost?
mm-hmm.
And so, again, I think as patients become more and more of their own advocates and can see what's out there on social media, both good and bad, they can start to say, hey, I'd like a choice if I have an option to be more conservative. And I really, truly believe that tooth movement is the gateway to that. That really helps set the case up for success.
Yeah. You mentioned about restorations. Is there anything there that you'll be able to share with our members with regard to sort of creating more durable restorations with resins and things like that? Sometimes they have a um, reputation, I guess, for not lasting. But,
Yeah. I think one of the biggest challenges for resins is in the past, most of the time done well, and there are some phenomenal technicians that can do it really well in just a freehand technique, layering composites layer after layer. Um, I don't know if you all follow Marshall Hansen online, but his work is amazing every single time, consistent. But that's all he does. Um, but not everyone does that every day, all day long. So you need to have a system or a product in your office that can really make the process a little bit easier and not have as many of the challenges before. So what we'll show are really two resin techniques that have worked really well in our practice. Again, one is 3M's Filtech Matrix system, which has been phenomenal for diastema closures, things that potentially could have been unpredictable for you in the past. But how you use warmed composite in single layering fashions, or you can get more creative and cut back those resins and layer. And the other technique is through an injectable flowable technique, where you're injecting flowable every other tooth, and then you're going back and injecting every other tooth again. So it allows you to do sometimes up to a full arch of dentistry, where you're opening up verticals, changing lengths of teeth, a combination of both. So it's a really cool technique that I think has allowed people to be more creative with resins than they would have liked to attempt in the past. And especially, I would say, again, as economy, who knows what's going on in the next couple of years, patients are looking for options that may get them through for the next 10 to 15 years before they're ready to move to a porcelain restoration. And it's a great option for a lot of our patients.
Yeah, that's awesome. Would you say that there is a certain age group of case that this most applies to, or is it pretty open?
I would say for a lot of our resin cases, they tend up being younger, either because cost. It's parents have just invested in ortho, a car, maybe college. I mean, the costs just keep going up for these kids. So they're looking to eliminate and do something maybe not as much of an investment dentistry wise, and then let the child or teenager making a choice at some point in time. So that's where I see a lot of resins, especially I'm sure everyone on this webinar sees a lot of peg laterals. So that's probably one of the most common cases where we're doing composites for two size discrepancy issues. So
Yeah.
I have several cases of those that I'll share with you. And then maybe some length issues if you're making a tooth a little bit longer, or just a simple diastema closure. If you end up with a case and you have an arch form issue and you have a diastema between 8 and 9, resin works phenomenally. So undetectable, it's done really well. And the parents are super appreciative as well as the kids.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see what you have to share. I always enjoy looking at cases, even though I am not in dentistry. I just get to observe it. So it's always interesting to me. But I'm sure this will be great for our audience to be able to engage with and ask questions and experience kind of, some of your knowledge in this area.
Yeah, I'm super excited of meeting everyone at the meeting.
Yeah. Do you have any other kind of things you would like to share as far as in any way someone would get a hold of you, or anything like that?
I probably am the best at Instagram. I probably, much to my wife's dismay, am on it way too often.
Yep.
Looking at dentistry things. So that's actually where I would say get different ideas for things like that. But my handle on there is Cappy Sinclair DDS. Fairly easy to remember. My name plus DDS. That's the advantage of being, I think, probably the only Cappy Sinclair around.
Yep.
But that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. If you want to check out our website to see some of the smiles we've done, we're smilevabeach.com. And other than that, that's probably the best way you can get a hold of me. So I would love to interact with some of you guys. If you have any questions or anything in particular that you'd like to see, I'm doing some finishing touches right now on presentation. So I definitely would love some input as far as how I could help some of the attendees out.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Well, we're very excited to see you there, and sounds like you have a little bit of experience in Greenville, so you'll maybe be able to give us a few tips on that once we get there. So, but I appreciate it, and thanks for taking the time to come on here, and we'll see you in October.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.